Hello, everyone. I hope you had a great keynote this morning. My name is Eva Murray. I'm from Exasol, and I have the pleasure to introduce the speaker for this session. So Ranjit is a principal business systems analyst, and I had to take some notes because he's done a lot of stuff, and I don't want to get it wrong. He has built, in the past, scientific data and analysis products for high-tech companies, and he's now with Equinix. And he evangelizes advanced analytics and data visualization. So he's an influencer. He works with stakeholders, making sure that, to get people on board behind the cause. And what he does is he drives data architecture and analytics platforms and business insights, business analysis at Equinix. So with his expertise in building analytics communities, what he wants to achieve is to really help Equinix drive the adoption across the organization. And he's going to tell you more about the organizations and what they do. And in his talk, what he wants to focus on is this zoo of tools that many organizations have. And maybe we can go get a show of hands. How many of you have many tools, many solutions in your organization? Yeah, there's a few. There's a lot.
A lot. Yeah.
Great. So it can be quite hard to get insights when you have to manage all those different tools and actually extract the value and demonstrate the value as well. So what he wants to share is how they've done that at Equinix, how they went from a lot of complexity to simplifying it and making it very elegant so that they can show the value and the insights to drive their business and create a data-driven culture. So please join me in welcoming Ranjit to the stage.
Thank you, Eva, for that kind introduction. It's very humbling. And thank you all for joining me today. It's an honor to present in front of you. Eva already mentioned and gave a great introduction. Thanks once again, Eva. So last year, I was at Tableau conference in New Orleans. And how many of you were at TC in New Orleans? OK, almost half of you. Great. So I had the opportunity to speak to a whole bunch of people out there from different parts of the world and different business functions. One of the key questions that everybody wanted answered was, how do you solve the problem around data complexity and data architecture? The common theme was also around the platforms. Everybody seemed to have too many tools and technologies in their data science and data platform stack. So I thought it's a great opportunity for me to share Equinix's journey around this entire data platform consolidation stack, and also take you through how we went through the process and how we achieved what we wanted to achieve. Let me begin by giving you an agenda around how we'll go about this one. We'll begin with an introduction to Equinix. What is Equinix as a business? I'll take you through the current state that we are in right now. And in the process, we'll go through our journey. In the end, I will share some key insights with you, and I hope that you will have some key takeaways as well and implement some of those steps in your company as well. Equinix is the world's largest interconnection and data center company. To bring this into context, let me give you some examples of how Equinix influences your life on a daily basis. You may or may not realize this, but when you're watching your favorite video on your favorite streaming app, chances are that the data is getting streamed through one of our data centers around the world. Or you're doing an online transaction in a bank, the chances are that the bank actually is located in one of our data centers. One more example. There are two banks doing transactions. And Bank A does not want to sit in Bank B's house, and Bank B does not want to go to Bank A's house. So where do they go? They come to Equinix under a network-neutral platform so that they can interconnect and share data across the world. So these are some of the examples of how Equinix actually influences our lives on a day-to-day basis. We aim to interconnect every company in the world, around the world, by building data platforms and data centers around the world, including building a lot of interconnections. This map actually shows you the spread of Equinix around the world and the number of data centers that we have. If you look at the spread, almost entire regions of the world are connected in over 200+ data centers in 25 countries. And we are located at major strategic business advantage points where the subsea cables from around the world help connect the networks of the world. So if you look at all the regions near the oceans and the seas, you will realize that's where Equinix is, because all the underground cables are running through the sea and the oceans to our data centers, and those are the connection hubs for us. Over the last 20 years, our company has invested $25 billion in building this infrastructure, and that's a massive amount of investment for a company to make. We realize the value of digital platforms and the way digital business is going. In future, we believe that all the companies and all people around the world will be interconnected, and we want to enable that interconnection. That's the journey we are in as Equinix. So we proudly claim we are Equinix, and we want to integrate and interconnect the entire world. If you look at the ecosystem of companies that we have, from cloud and IT providers to financial companies to Fortune 500 companies, most of these companies are actually co-located in Equinix data centers. One of the typical examples is, if you are a company and if you have an office in New York, for example, and you want to securely connect to your office in London and to your other offices around the world, Platform Equinix could be one of the choices as well. You could go through public internet or through any other providers, but the magic of Platform Equinix is something that can enable it in a very private and secure fashion. I'm going to give you an example of what that looks like. On this diagram here, you will see how the applications are spread in an on-premise environment. This is just a typical example of, could be one of your environments. It could be very familiar with you. You may have an on-premise server or databases in your office locations or somewhere in your environment. Now, when you want to connect your on-prem systems to a cloud environment, which could be Google Cloud, Amazon, or Azure, you also have systems in the SaaS platform. For example, it could be Workday, Salesforce, and so on and so forth. So this is a typical environment that you will have. In majority of companies, we have seen this. With Equinix's Cloud Exchange Fabric, we can privately connect your on-prem systems to public clouds. Now, I'm going to give you a second to absorb this. We're talking about public clouds, Google, Microsoft, and Amazon, located in our data centers. We've got your on-prem systems connecting to these public clouds within the Equinix platform using the ECX fabric, the Equinix Cloud Exchange Fabric. So that's how we enable companies around the world to interconnect and co-locate around the world. This also enables a lot of security, and all the concerns people have around security and data interchange with public clouds. This kind of resolves all of that, those issues that we have, that we can see. And we at Equinix leverage this heavily when we deploy applications and systems around the world for our business users and our customers. So it's an example of Equinix on Equinix leveraging their own product for their own business benefits. Now that we know about Equinix and what Equinix does and some of its products, let me take you through the current state. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the growth of the company and how the growth of the company has challenged us in the IT, analytics, and data science team to build data pipelines and data platforms. Over the last 20 years, the company has grown both organically and inorganically. We are now at about $6 billion worth of revenue and constantly growing. And we've added many data centers to our portfolio as well. Now, as we acquire more and more companies, what happens is we also acquire a lot of data from these companies. We have to integrate these companies into our stack of IT applications and systems. I'm going to give you a view of what this looks like, not calling out the names of the applications. These colors represent different business functions within our company. And over the last couple of years, you've seen how this has grown as our company is growing rapidly. We've added over 200 plus tools and technologies to our enterprise IT portfolio stack, and I'm sure many of you here relate to that environment if your company is growing rapidly at a rapid pace and acquiring multiple companies across the globe. Not only that, the complexity of these applications also increase as we continue to evolve. More and more applications added to our stack to support our business actually increases the data and the amount of data that we have to work with. Now, with all the data coming in from so many applications, how do you generate business insights and business value? The answer could be in creating stronger data pipelines, stronger data platforms, and also giving our business users a holistic view of what their data could look like at a cross-functional point. With all of that growth, with the Equinix has had, and the application portfolio growth, we've also seen a growth in the number of employees around the world. We are at about 10,000 employees right now, with a couple of thousand contractors as well. And we are located in about 230 global locations. Now imagine the complexity of around 15,000 people in 230 locations accessing your IT applications and analytics and data science platforms. On top of that, we have some very major key stakeholders around the world, around 500 of them, who actively interact with our data science and analytics teams. Now, all of these, in combination with the number of stakeholders that we have, increases the pressure or challenges the IT, analytics, and data science team to deliver analytics or to provide critical capabilities to deliver business value. Now, let me show you how this looks like. Eva mentioned about the sporadic growth of applications and tools. I'm going to show you a view of what the data platform and the analytics platform looked like for us. Does this sound familiar to many of you? Too many tools, too many applications continuously getting added, one business function requesting one application, another business function loving some application. Somebody comes in the company from another company, wants a new application. Very common theme around the world in many companies. And what this has done to us is it continually kept on challenging us. But what we realized is, with this kind of a data platform growth, we really cannot sustain the future business needs. On top of that, we also had a lot of investments in the last couple of years from our business partners. For example, our business partners in sales, marketing, and finance wanted more analytics to be delivered. So we kept on adding tools. So the evolved complexity, I'm going to show you a picture of how this really looks like in terms of data, different layers. And I know some of you are taking pictures. Maybe you can take a fancy picture just after this. Let's look at the data platform, the integration, and the visualization stack. Now, this is a stack that probably is very familiar to many of you. And I can see that people are nodding their heads. Great. So look at the data integration layer here. We've got too many integration touch points. Data platform itself, between multiple data platform stacks, data tools, we've got too much of this. Now, when you have such a diverse set of data platforms, it really becomes a challenging job for an analyst or a data scientist to be able to deliver insights to business in the right time that they need it. Business needs insight always yesterday, and we deliver it after a week or a month. And this is a common problem across many enterprises that are growing really fast. Even though you can have a strong and bright team, without the right platforms, you really cannot push the needle really high. In the data visualization layer, these are some of the examples of what we use right now. There's a whole bunch of tools. People in our finance department, they love Excel. You can try everything. They're not going to leave Excel. We've tried. We've given up. But we definitely are coming up with new ways of solving those problems, innovative ways of solving the problems, and attaching components around Excel because they do what they do best. Now, this is the complex architecture. How do we evolve from this complex architecture to an architecture that is much more simple and modern? So to do that, our team, we have a great team in Silicon Valley and Singapore. We work together very closely, along with a team in Poland as well, to basically look at solutions and new technologies constantly and innovate on the platform. So I will take you through a journey of how this looks like. And this is our journey. If you all have similar kind of problems, you could probably take some learning from here. And also, if you have any questions, we can deal with the Q&A later. I'm going to show you how this journey looks like and basically take you through the process we went through. And I want to begin by saying that the process is a little complex. It needs a lot of coordination, a lot of time and investment. So bear with me while I go with the presentation. We begin by interviewing our stakeholders around the world. What is it that they need? They all understand that there are too many tools. Now, if someone has a question of how do you define revenue, there could be multiple definitions of the same metric across the company, varying by departments. Sales might want to define it differently. Finance might want to define it differently. So our business partners basically came back and said, there are too many tools, and when we really get confused where to go. Should I go to X tool, Y tool, Z tool? Where do I go for getting my centralized analytics? There's also this question about the speed of delivery. Hey, I wanted it yesterday, and I'm getting it after a week. This is a common theme that we have seen. And around user experience, that's the big one. Our business users are constantly requesting for a platform or a portal that they can go to rather than having to go to multiple tools. Talks a lot about consolidation. Now, let's look at the emerging expectations that we've had. There is this high need and understanding that people have now for machine learning and AI. It is becoming more and more common with these tools like Siri or Alexa or Google Voice and all of those things. So people want these capabilities, and they want analytics delivered just by click or by speaking. So we wanted to make sure that the platform and tool choice that we do basically caters to some of the advanced analytics needs. And certain times we also have seen that our users actually log onto our systems and download some reports. This is an example, right? They'd go click on certain filters and then say, okay, download. So we wanted to make sure that we save time for those users. So we also thought, okay, let's think about process automation and how we can use tools like RPA, robotic process automation, to basically deliver these kind of business value things, which are very mundane tasks, but they need that. And definitely folks want things all on their mobile phones nowadays, whether it's sales, marketing, any other business department, they want things really readily available. On the other side, we also looked at what the information technology industry demands from us. Now, from a CIO's perspective, the top goal of a CIO is delivering the highest business value with the lowest possible cost. So the first goal is to deliver the highest business values to have major impact. We wanted to make sure that in choosing the right tools and technologies in the platform, we don't really overrun the costs. And we definitely wanted to make sure that we can deal with the different emerging data sources that we have as the company continues to grow. Now, these are some of the key drivers for the digital transformation journey. Let's look at what are the key drivers from an analytics perspective. Well, you guessed it. Platform reduction, number one. Nobody wants to go to 50 different tools. They want to go to maybe a couple of tools or maybe one, the centralized system. Definitely around simplicity. Building something simple, yet something that can deliver business value is a complex task. We also want to look at some of the advanced analytics capabilities in using machine learning and AI so that we could run predictions. We've been fairly successful with machine learning, actually, with the new stack that we've had. Our team, our data science team actually works really hard to deliver some of the predictions that our company uses internally for driving some of the key business decisions. And the biggest driver that we have seen is also performance. If you use any legacy tool, I'm sure many of you have seen, you click on a report or dashboard or go to a executive dashboard, you click on a button, and then it keeps spinning. And then probably with some of the legacy tools, you go out, get your coffee, while the report or dashboard downloads. Common theme, I see a lot of smiles here, so I know the pain is common. So we wanted to make sure that we choose those tools that can deliver business value, yet remain highly performant, not something that keeps on spinning for you and you have to wait. So these are some of the key objectives. Let's look at the major platform components now of how we align this to the components. So to be able to run this evaluation, we divided the business inputs and analytics components into 4 major categories: data integration, data platform, data visualization, and miscellaneous. Now, obviously, there's a laundry list of features that we want. Everybody wants 10 features, right? 10, 20, 30. there's this user we had. He wanted, I think, he sent me a list of 15 different features saying that, okay, can I get all of these? I'm like, sure, why not? We'll come back and talk to you. So we wanted to categorize these features into, what is it that we really need for the company to move the needle. The biggest driver was to look at those features that can move the needle and not something really fancy to have. So we categorized the features into what are the features we need, what are the capabilities we're looking for, and what are some of the nice to have things. From a data integration perspective, we definitely wanted to look at a platform that can integrate to multiple systems. As we continue to evolve and grow in the company, in any company, you will constantly see this bombardment of new applications. You go to any conference, there's going to be 15 different companies trying to sell you a new application. It's a very, very common thing. And chances are, you will see that those applications kind of do the same thing, but in a different way. So we wanted to make sure that we look at any platform or tool of choice that can integrate well, that's a little open towards integration, not closed. You don't want to land up in a solution where you have to go back to your vendor to write integrations all the time when you want to integrate a new application. Or they come back to you with a new sticker shock saying that, okay, this adapter is going to cost you X amount of dollars, right? So you want to protect yourself from those kind of unknowns in the future. From a data platform perspective, some of the two major drivers were performance and optimization. Definitely incremental updates of data and complex query handling were some of them, but we definitely want to look at performance optimization as one of the main components. Data visualization, self-service. Everybody wants self-service. They think that self-service is something that is really critical. Many people have different definitions of self-service, but at a high level, we want to provide the capability to our users to be able to serve some of the needs themselves rather than having to come to IT or to a data scientist or a data analyst. And one important note that I want to point out here is about query optimization. Many of these self-service visualization tools that you see in the market, you really want to take a look at them from a query optimization perspective, because you may have a very fast database, but if the query optimization is not working well in the visualization tools layer itself, you might land up in really high performance bottlenecks. So we wanted to make sure that we have this as part of our evaluation criteria as well. Now on the miscellaneous category, we definitely want a data catalog, a workbench, and all of those things. But we want to make sure that first we have the data platform right, the integrations right. That's going to be the major component, because if you don't have the integrations and the platform right, all the other accessory components will not work for you. Now, we've nailed down the major components. How do we succeed in this evaluation? To be able to succeed, you definitely have to have some kind of a measuring criteria. So we launched a scorecard building process internally to figure out which are the features that we really need, and we weighted them as high, and we built a scorecard model internally for evaluating multiple tools and technologies during our process. So for data integration, we had some of them. For data platform, likewise, we wanted to make sure that the platform responds really well to what we need. And incremental load. Now, please pay attention to this, because incremental load is something that all of you might be aware of. But many times what happens is, if you are using some of the self-service tools, they might come back and recommend saying, use extracts. But incremental load is something that's going to keep your data fresh, and the business insights out of your data are going to be really up to date. So we want to make sure that we have that also in our data platform. From visualization perspective, the same self-service, complex visualization, and integration with D3, important part. If you have looked at many of the New York Times visualizations and all of that, they use D3 heavily. Even in Wall Street Journal, they actually use D3 heavily behind the scenes to integrate many of the visualizations. We want to make sure that any tool that we use actually integrates really well with all of these emerging tools and technology stack. Now that we have built the scorecard, we want to look at how do we go about doing the evaluation itself. So we said, let's look at the greenfield approach. What this means is, you go out in the market, do your research, figure out what the industry analysts have to say. I mean, they do their job really well, like Gartner, for example, Forrester, McKinsey. They've got analysts spending hundreds of thousands of hours doing this analysis around what's the tools and technologies out there. We also spoke to our peers in the industry, our CIO community, our folks around the world of how they solve their business problems. So this approach actually really opened our minds to having a very open kind of feature set and not go ahead with any biases that we might have because of our experiences. And the other one, which was very important, was we wanted to make sure that there are no deployment constraints when we are deploying any of these analytics tools and technologies. Now, imagine this. Many companies have this month-end bill run or the month-end something going on, right? Whether it's sales, order management, finance, right? Every month-end or quarter-end, there's these things running. And we have seen in our company as well, they're doing the month-end time, and the first week of the month is really people are busy with something, around data and all of that. So basically, if you build your stack around, this kind of tools and technology which has no deployment constraint, that will make sure that you can constantly deploy while the business runs as usual. So those were two considerations. Now let's look at the pilot. So having all of this set, doing the industry research, talking to the analysts, building a scorecard, figuring out what we need, interviewing our business users around the world, we said, let's look at some of the pilot use cases that we have to deliver. Now, in our pilot, we basically looked at 9 solutions or products from across the stack. I think when we began, initially, we had about 100 plus tools and technologies in the stack from the overall portfolio. Then we went to the reduction process and mapping process and building a balanced scorecard and figured out, okay, we go ahead with 9 evaluations. This entire evaluation took us about 12 to 16 weeks. And this number actually is post all the work that you have to do with your vendor partner. Many vendors, it's not easy to work with. So when you have this whole list of technologies and companies that you want to work with, it takes a little bit of time for the companies to come on board with your journey and the story that you have. The first question I have seen with many software vendors is, okay, when do you want to implement? Do you have a budget? I'm like, you're going to talk about budget and implementation? I want to know more about your solution first. Let's get to the budget later. So just a warning here. I mean, many of you must have experienced the same thing. It's really hard to get past the sales and marketing defense that these companies have created. I know many companies in Silicon Valley are evolving now and trying to remove that artificial layer. And I do understand that these are important, but you have to figure out a way to navigate around these and tell them the story and how you want to get along. So we worked with these partners, and we went into an evaluation mode, essentially partnering with them. Some companies actually do free proof of concepts. Many companies charge you for that. We were fine with either of them. We wanted to make sure that if the right technology in the mix, we pay for the time that the consultant is charging us. So it's about 12 to 16 weeks. Our engineering team back in Singapore, Poland, and India, and Silicon Valley were involved in the entire evaluation. And we basically went through this process. Now, 13 use cases. When we started initially, I think we had about 20 plus or more than 20 use cases that we wanted to tackle. But out of those 20, there were only 13 that actually moved the needle for us from a platform perspective and from delivering the business value perspective. So we basically stopped at 13 because otherwise this evaluation would become a 12-month project and nobody would be interested post the result. We would announce the result and the technology stack would be moving by another 2 years. And the biggest point I want to make in all this journey is integrations. How many of you here have had the problem of buying a tool and then realizing after a couple of months that there is this application that you need data from and your tool is actually not integrating well? We've seen this problem over and over and over again. So we wanted to make sure that we test the integration points really well with our ecosystem. Your application and IT ecosystem will be different, so make sure that you basically pay attention to building integrations while you're doing your evaluation. Do not wait for the integration to come after, because that's going to be a shock. So having done all of these, having run the POCs and tests and the global tests and performance tests and all of these things, we came out with a very simplified architecture. Now, before we go that, do you remember this complex architecture? Yeah? So let's see what we have come at right now. And I'm going to show you where we have evolved right now in terms of the platform itself. Before I do that, I want to call out that this is a scalable and evolving stack. What I mean by evolving is we are constantly making changes as our engineering team learns more about the platform. And we are in this process of basically every quarter we make some changes to the stack itself. This is the platform that we have come to now from that complex architecture. And yes, please take the pictures as much as you like. I'm going to pause for a second. So I want to draw your attention to two major components in this platform. If you recall, I had mentioned about a complex data platform where you had data silos across multiple data tools. We had, I believe, about 10 different data silos that we had created. Right now, from a platform perspective, we are heavily utilizing Exasol's in-memory capabilities and Exasol's database capabilities. We also use Google Cloud Platform and all of its tools and technologies for our business value. And if you look at the visualization layer, we have only a couple of tools. And we also are building custom visualizations. I'm going to go into detail of each of these components and how they are helping us. Let's look at the component view for a second. Now, these are some of the sources that we tackle on our day-to-day basis with this platform. The integration is really important here. We not only use Informatica's CDC, which is change data capture for delivering some of the structured real-time analytics. We also use Python and Kafka to build some of our streaming engines. From a data layer perspective, we heavily utilize GCP and Exasol. I want to call out one example here so that you get a perspective. How many of you here have seen this typical scenario? There's this month end happening, and our business user is running a report, which is a very heavy report. And at that point in time, you get a ticket saying that, hey, my report is running really slow. What's going on? I really want it now. So we send the information back to our admin team, and the response comes back, oh, we are sorry, the ETL job is running. You have to wait. Probably this is a common scenario in many companies. So what happens with legacy stack is when the user layer is trying to serve the report or a dashboard to you, and the database layer is busy in ETL, there's this lag that happens, and the user experience is affected. With Exasol's in-memory and massively parallel processing capabilities, we are able to get past that right now. With Exasol, what happens is there are these multiple threads running in parallel, and your ETL jobs, in theory, can run in different threads versus what the user layer can run in different threads. So we've been able to achieve massive success with that. We also leverage Google's BigQuery for some of our unstructured analytics. As a company, we are heavily focused on customer experience. So we've got a lot of audio and video data that we need to process, and also a lot of text data that comes in. So we use Google BigQueries for all of that. Overall, from a data platform perspective, we heavily leverage these tools and technologies. Now, on the data visualization stack, we also build custom visualizations for many of our data science components. We basically rely on building some of the Python visualizations and D3.js visualization as well. We definitely use Tableau and Power BI right now internally for delivering business value. And the choice of these tools is also many times mandated by business users. Many business users like the way a tool operates, so we have to accommodate for that as well. Although we may say that we want to go ahead with one technology or tool stack, you definitely have to hear to what the business community has to say. So we try to make that balance around the choice of tools and technologies. Now, I want to show you a reference architecture that probably you can take it with you in terms of how some of the implementation can look like, especially because we are in Tableau conference right now. So it makes sense to show you how many people deploy Tableau. Now, this is a typical Tableau environment that many of you must have seen or maybe having the same environment in your company. You've got this data warehouse or a data source. There's a data mart. And more often than not, it's recommended to have extracts. I've worked with many people, both within Tableau and outside of Tableau, and they recommend doing extract because it's really fast. But the problem with extracts is, although it's really fast, it could be fast, if your data volume grows, you really cannot deal with extracts. Imagine this, you have about 12 different business functions, each of them demanding heavy data usage. You cannot possibly be creating extract for all these business functions. And the other major problem is, you really cannot deploy security well at an enterprise level if you have extracts. So we have seen these challenges both within our company and in the industry that we have spoken to, our peers. So here's a reference architecture that you could use to deploy Tableau internally. You could have a high-performance database in between, serving to accelerate your dashboards and reports. And there are different options, to deploy these solutions. So I'll wait for a second while you take the pictures. And these are some of the options of having a live connection. If you are at an enterprise level and if your company is located around the world with users across all regions, we highly recommend going the live connection route so that your data is fresh. And there are other challenges of live connection as well that probably I'll share a little bit down the line as I talk about the key takeaways. Now, having built the solution and the solution stack, let me talk about how we internally deploy solutions for our users around the world. Now, for many of you here, your company could be located in EMEA, Asia-Pac, Americas, and all around the world, right? So I'm going to show you how we use our own technology to deploy these solutions. On the top, you see our London data center. On the left is the Silicon Valley, and on the right is the Singapore data center. So when we deploy our solutions, because our data centers are heavily interconnected, we are able to deploy these solutions so that our users across the regions have consistent experience and don't go through latency problems. One of the challenges that we have seen with our other partners and other companies that we have spoken to, the deployment is probably in one of the data centers in US or somewhere in Asia-Pac or Europe. And when people from other regions want to interact with those dashboards or reports, the latency is really high. The same dashboard that takes about 10 seconds to load or less than 10 seconds in US could take about 1 minute or more in APAC. So just wanted to call this out that there is a way you could deploy solutions also. So we've gone through our journey. We've also seen the major use cases and the pilot that we have done. We've taken you through the process of how we have implemented this and what's the final stack that we have implemented. Let me close this by talking to you about some of the key insights that we have gained from this. And at a high level, we've been able to deliver business value. That's the most critical. That was the whole reason of doing this entire journey. Were we able to move the needle or not? So our balanced scorecards really helped us find out and basically tell us that, yes, we did that. From a technology evaluation, innovation perspective, we definitely use some of the most advanced technologies right now. I've shown you just a sample of what we have. Because our data platform has consolidated now, it has become much more easier for us to democratize data and build data models on top of the platform so that our business users can actually derive more value out of it rather than going to 15 different sources and trying to fish for the right data. We are also working internally to build communities within Equinix. We have groups in Yammer, Microsoft Teams, and also some boot camps that we run internally to build that buzz around data platform and data community. And we see heavy involvement of people. Whenever we post something on our community portal, people respond to that. If our users have any questions around data, they can post in the community portal, and someone actually responds. So it's We are heavily utilizing the knowledge and the power of community as well. Now let me try to summarize some of the key benefits and takeaways from this analytics platform transformation journey. Number one is one platform for all. Essentially, we don't want people to go to 5 different systems. So now we have a consistent set of platforms that people can rely on and go to. Time to market is another big one. Earlier, when someone requested for an enhancement or a change to our analytics reports, dashboards, some of the key KPIs and metrics, it would take a lot of time because of the way it was built. We would have to go to our legacy system, get the ETLs done, get the data loaded. The process was really complicated. And because we had multiple tools in the data platform stack, it became even more complex for us to deliver insights. So that has reduced a lot by implementing a common stack of data platform. From a self-service perspective, we've gained substantial value. Some of our key business users are able to self-serve many of the data models that we have published on Tableau or Power BI on top of the XSOL and BigQuery database platforms. We've also been able to democratize data. That being said, people can now go to one published source, which is certified, and there's no confusion around what means what. But I want to call out that this is a journey, and we are constantly learning and evolving. Definitely, you cannot do it alone. You need a village to do this. When I say village, you basically need your vendor partners. You want people who are committed. You definitely want exec support in this. You cannot really do it by running it as a silo project and try to implement in the enterprise. You need to have buy-in from all business users. What we have done internally is we have taken all our business partners along the journey, and whatever it is, our failures and successes, we have shared them together. And we are still continuing the journey of evolution within Equinix. That's all for today. Thank you very much. So I would like to end this by saying that there's a survey form that you need to fill up. Please take your time to fill the survey forms. And we are open for Q&A now.